There is no way this could be over yet.
Hey Mark, are you ready for Halloween Kills? What's wrong? Are you okay?
I just don't get it. 13 movies now, 2 of which were actually good, and not a single one of them managed to ask the question, why haven't we killed Michael Myers yet? I just don't get it.
Why? Michael Myers is awesome. How dare you not like Michael Myers?
Can we just be honest with one another for a minute, please? The first movie made sense, but now the series has gone on for so long that I completely forgot what common sense was. I remember when I was 14 reading reviews of these movies on obscurehorror.com, and I remember thinking to myself, how has this series gone on for so long? I remember around this time that the Rob Zombie reboot came out. Of course I was too young to see it, or any of the movies that were reviewed on their website for that matter. I remember watching trailers for these movies over and over and over again. It taught me what inferencing was. I kept thinking, what were these movies really like? By the time I saw the first one in 2014, I was mesmerized by it. I loved the cinematography, the editing, the suspense. I appreciated it. Like a lot of us horror fans were. By the time I saw the other sequels, particularly 2 through 5, I had a sudden realization. These movies make no sense. I spent 7 years wondering what these movies are like. I've been another 6 trying to watch them all and try and understand what the series was. And I realized that what was living behind the series' eyes was purely and simply confusion. I know the series will come back again. I know it'll come back. It's already here.
Well, did you read the plot of this new movie?
Yes, I have read the plot for the new movie. And it is one of the stupidest plots I have heard of for a horror film in a long time. There is absolutely no way that Michael Myers could have escaped from that basement. Absolutely no way. Laurie Strode set it up in a way where it was impenetrable. There is no way he could have escaped from that basement. He should have been dead. Okay, he should have been dead by now. But no, they just decided to brain it up again. They decided to bring him back because, oh, we made a lot of money. Well, I'm gonna do something that these movies never have the guts to do.
What's that?
I'm gonna give this series a brutally honest review. Halloween Kills is the most unnecessary horror sequel to come out in a long time. While unwelcome horror sequels are nothing new, this takes it to a whole new level. The main reason why the first one is so memorable is because of the way it was done. The POV camera showing the killer's perspective was perfected in this film, the characters are memorable, and the music is probably one of the most recognizable Halloween themes in history. There are different themes of the movie that help elevate the movie. There's no gore in the movie whatsoever, only intense tension, and the ideas behind it were very smart. As I've stated before, the series went in so many directions that it had no clear focus or agenda, unlike the Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street films. And that is the main reason why I don't like this series. The 2018 sequel, as I have stated before, was a nice return to form. It was the second time that a true sequel was made, taking place within the continuity of the first film. It should have been one and done. It retconned the entire series, it was well paced, and the film, overall, was very welcome. But since it made boatloads of money, they just couldn't leave it alone. No, They had to make a sequel. I'm all for a proper Halloween series that continues on from the original, but what we got was totally uncalled for and demanded a complete rewrite.
I guess I should talk about the movie now.
The film takes place on the same night as the 2018 film, with Laurie Strode being rushed to a nearby hospital after her epic confrontation with Michael Myers. She and her daughters believe that he is dead, but suddenly he shows up. Somehow. Alive and well. So now he's back killing people. Meanwhile, at the local bar, Tommy Doyle, this time played by Anthony Michael Hall, who survived the encounter 43 years ago, hears about someone encountering Michael Myers. So there are two plot lines going on here. One is Laurie Strode in the hospital recovering, the other is Tommy Doyle rallying up the entire town trying to stop Michael. I was actually wrong when I said that Laurie Strode was trying to get the whole town involved to kill Michael Myers. In actuality, it was Tommy Doyle, not Laurie Strode. Okay, fine. But even so, the plot is forgettable. It's nothing more than lots of ideas that have been done before. Alright, let me get the good stuff out of the way. The cinematography is actually decent for the most part. At least you can actually see everything that's happening, and the editing is, well, even. The music is once again great, just like in the last movie. John Carpenter is once again committed to his Halloween music, and you can tell how enthusiastic he is at trying to create some suspenseful tracks. And also, it was nice to see the return of Nancy Stevens and Charles Cyphers from the original film. Nancy is the nurse who was the one that got attacked by Michael in the car when he escaped from a mental institution, and Charles was the sheriff whose daughter was killed by Michael Myers in the first film. Yeah, he had like one or two scenes in the original. It's nice to see familiar faces from the original film reprising their roles, even if it's a brief scene here or there. At least for not cameos. Yeah, these characters do elevate the plot, but my question is, why haven't they left this town yet? Also, Jamie Lee Curtis is back as Laurie Strode, obviously. This time, she takes a back seat to the other characters in this story. Which is fine, I don't mind, but she's still committed to this character, and you can easily tell.
But that is not what I want to talk about. I don't want to talk about the plot itself. I want to talk about the plot structure and how it's framed, because let me tell you something. The plot for Halloween Kills is so bland, so predictable, so uneventful, so stupid. It's about as bad as Halloween 5 or 6. We went from a decent 2018 sequel to this. You know what? I just could not believe how dumb. Let's just talk about the thing.
The film's actual opening begins in 1978, the same night as in the original film. A young boy encounters Michael Myers, and then the authorities show up and he's not there. The police decide to chase Michael down and either arrest him or kill him. The problem is that if this is supposed to take place on the same night as in the original, then why are the cops chasing after him? Did Donald Pleasance, aka Dr. Loomis, call the cops off screen? See guys, there is an important reason why he did not call the cops in the first movie. It was because, in his mind, he started it. He was Michael's psychologist. He saw him as nothing but pure evil, and thus he felt he had to be the one to kill Michael. So this whole scene is 100% bogus because Dr. Loomis never once called the authorities. Unless he called them at the last minute while he was on the hunt for him, but he had to have a payphone to call them. This just makes no sense. The film then opens back to where we left off in the 2018 film. And now this is where my real criticisms begin.
Do you want to know how he survived? Yeah, you will not believe this. Okay. He hid in a closet. He hid in a closet somehow, despite the fact that Laurie Strode planned all of this for 40 years. So somehow she missed a closet door that Michael is able to get inside. But that doesn't make sense because if we were going by logic here, he would have died from smoke inhalation. He would have died from breathing in too much smoke. So either way, he should have been dead by now.
If you need any further clarification as to why this is a problem, all you have to do is watch the last movie again. Laurie Strode spent 40 years planning her revenge against Michael. It was carefully planned and well thought out. She thought of every single strategy and every single way to kill Michael. And by the end of the movie, she was finally able to outsmart Michael and trap him in the basement, thus setting the entire house on fire. It was smart and well written. So not only is Halloween Kills inconsistent, but it's also breaking logic right in front of your face. The film shifts to the local bar where we see our mostly expendable characters. except for ones we already established before. They hear about the attacks going on in the town and then head out to kill Michael. The problem is that the person they've been chasing after is not Michael. He looks nothing like Michael. He actually looks like a cross between Danny DeVito and John Leguizamo from that Spawn movie.
Look, I get what they're trying to do. I really do. They're trying to say that the presence of Michael Myers is turning everyone into animals. The duality of man is explored in this movie. The idea that you look in a mirror or a reflective glass, I'm just using their terminology here, and see what you really are. You see the dark part of a human psyche and how the fear of one individual can cause the entire town to get raving mad and want revenge. That idea is fine, but you're trying to add complexity to this situation when really it's a matter of trying to kill an undead serial killer. You can't just say, hey, we're gonna put something philosophical in there and assume that you're able to understand that. It doesn't work like that. But the whole thing is completely rushed.
A gay couple now occupy the Myers house, and they are perfectly aware of a history with the house, yet they seem not to mind. This is just asking for trouble. We've been through this 100 times before, not just in the Halloween series, but in any horror movie ever. On a side note, there is a Halloween 3 reference in this movie. Firstly, some stupidity. The scene in question revolves around Lindsay, another survivor of the original film. Marilyn Chambers, the nurse as I mentioned earlier, and two doctors head out to try and find Michael. They notice some trick-or-treaters and tell them to run away. Michael attacks them by jumping on top of a car. Marilyn shoots her gun at the windows. Michael shows up to the door and Marilyn says, "This is for Dr. Loomis." And then she runs out of bullets. Well, maybe she should have not wasted them on the windows. Again, the age-old tradition of characters in horror movies making dumb decisions is still relevant apparently. Then we see the bodies wearing the masks from Halloween 3. So, I guess Halloween 3 did happen in some timeline and we just had no knowledge about it.
You know what, honestly, I would talk about every single problem in this movie, but one, this would turn into a Mauler video, which I love Mauler by the way, and two, I am running out of patience from talking about the stinker, so I'll just skip to the point.
Eventually, Laurie finds out about Michael and decides to go out and fight again, despite the fact that she is not physically fit to confront him again. She says that she wants to be the one to go out and kill him instead of her daughters because, in her own words, she does not want her children to keep running from the thing that she started. So, what did she start exactly? The cop, who accidentally shot his partner in the opening, blames himself for what happened, but none of this matters because this never happened in the original movie, so why should we care? He says that he believes that under his mask and his strength is a lonely boy who never knew his parents. Give me a break. Did we forget about the original all of a sudden? Dr. Loomis said he is a living embodiment of evil. Period. There is nothing more to explain. I mean, yeah, the Rob Zombie reboot tried to give him more backstory, which I didn't mind that too much. But keep in mind, that was trying to be its own thing. We are talking about the original 1978 film here. So, pandemonium ensues at the hospital and they think Michael is going to come after Laurie. Actually, it's that guy I mentioned earlier who looked like Danny DeVito. He shows up needing help and everyone races to try and kill him, despite the fact that he had no relevance in the plot earlier. Laurie and her daughter's cries of "leave him alone, he is the wrong person" have fallen on deaf ears. One of the daughters tries to help him, but out of the confusion, he jumps out the window. Again, they are trying to say that Michael is turning everyone into Lord of the Flies, but this guy had little to no involvement with the story. The only connection he has to the plot, and it's one of those blink and you miss a details, is that he was one of the 3 prisoners who escaped after their prison bus crashed. But again, this serves no purpose to the plot.
And now the ending. Holy mackerel, let me tell you about the ending. The ending. You managed to get this far, so I'm gonna tell you what is wrong with the ending. Well, the ending is one of the most predictable, most laughable, most expectantly disappointing endings I have ever seen. It's one of those type of endings where you know exactly how it's gonna go down. This movie hyped up 2 things. 1, the unmasking of Michael Myers, and 2, the public execution of Michael Myers. Remember how impressive and suspenseful the original unmasking scene was in the Lon Chaney classic Phantom of the Opera? Remember how suspenseful and intense it was? and how shocking it was? Yeah, well, all of that just got flown out the window because this unmasking matters so little that I don't even see why it's a big deal anyway. We've actually seen Michael Myers unmasked a couple of times in the other movies, particularly the first movie and the fourth one, and the Rob Zombie Halloween 2 if you count that. But in this movie, they made it seem like they were gonna reveal him. They were gonna reveal him for the man who he was. And getting back to the whole duality of man concept, I do not have a photo of what he looks like with the mask off, but I can give you a description. He has severe burns on one side of his face. He doesn't have any hair at all. So it's possible that somewhere in this bizarre narrative that this movie's trying to stir up, Halloween 2 did happen, and somehow he just happened to walk away from that, which makes no sense. And he has a goatee, and he looks about, I would say, 60, 70, something like that. It doesn't really matter a whole lot. And then the sheriff says, like, "We got you now! Everyone's entitled to one good scare." And I'm just sitting there going, okay. Fine.
They figure out that Michael kills in a path. He goes to Haddonfield, stays at his childhood home, kills people in random patterns, and goes back home. So what happens to the other 364 days of the year? Is he in hibernating or something? And if so, where? Stop trying to create a complexity to Michael's character. You did this in Halloween's 4 through 6. Stop it.
And then the public execution, he doesn't die. I knew it. I knew it. I knew this fact even before the movie even started. The marketing for this was a farce. They kept on hyping the public execution of Michael Myers, and they made it seem like this was going to be the final film in the entire franchise. Well, all of that is a complete lie, because he doesn't die. Did anyone, can I ask you a serious question for a minute, folks? Did any of you believe that for 1 solid minute? Not 1 second, 1 minute. Did any of you believe that? Did any of you believe that Michael Myers was going to die that night? Anyone? Did anyone believe that? I have to ask this because I feel like we were all duped. The second I heard that they were going to make another movie, I already knew the ending was complete bonkers. Once you realize there was going to be another movie, they're not going to kill Michael Myers. They can't. Okay, they're hyping it up too early. You know, if you said that for Halloween Ends, I would have believed that. But no, you hyped it up the movie before, which ruins the entire experience. If you're expecting Michael Myers to die in this movie, that will never happen. And it's never gonna happen at this point. They also mentioned one other fact that I should bring up. They mentioned that he can't die because he's a physical version of our own angry emotions. That he is the anger that divides us. This movie's crap. I'm sorry, it sucks. I can't defend this movie at all. Some people will look at these movies and say they're enjoyable for what they are, which is fair. I understand that point totally. But don't tell me that you believed any of the marketing for 1 minute, because if you actually believe that, you're just as duped as the rest of the people who saw this movie.
Halloween Kills is flat out unnecessary, and this is not coming from someone who only appreciates the original and would rather forget about the other ones except for the 2018 movie. This is coming from someone who wants a decent Halloween franchise and doesn't want random nonsense in their films. I know there are people who like this movie for what it is, and that's perfectly fine. I just expected better. In fact, I actually kept my expectations to a minimum, and I still felt like I got robbed. I have no choice but to give this movie a 4 out of 10, and the only reason why it isn't lower is because of the great music, decent cinematography, the return of familiar faces, and Jamie Lee Curtis / Laurie Strode doing a decent dramatic performance. But if there's one thing that the box office returns from this movie have taught me, it's that people are too conditioned to break away. That people cannot break away from something that they like, even if they know it's unnecessary or flat out ridiculous.
Some of my friends don't really understand why I don't like these movies. How come you don't like this franchise? And my answer to that is that the series is so convoluted that it demands an explanation. And I'm not talking about the original classic, I'm not talking about the 2018 sequel to that, I'm talking about every other movie in this bizarre franchise. I know that these new movies retcon all the sequels, that came before, but since this movie threw in some references from the other movies, I now have to ask these questions. To those of you out there who really care about adding complexity to Michael Myers' character, please answer the following questions. Is Michael Myers real, or is he a ghost? Is that the reason why he cannot get killed in any of his movies? Why is it that he had to be rebooted not once but 3 times because the writers of his movies didn't know what to do with him? Why is it that in one timeline he was the brother of Laurie Strode, and in another timeline he was the subject of a cult, and in another timeline he escaped from 2 mental institutions? Who is he getting revenge on in Halloween 5? How come he has no goal or agenda? Why is he so angry all the time? What was Rob Zombie trying to prove with his reboot series? And speaking of which, in the Rob Zombie Halloween 2, why is it that Michael Myers is being pursued by this woman in white who claims to be his mother? Are they purposefully trying to rip off Friday the 13th? And what was up with the ending in that movie too? What did any of that mean? And speaking of which, why is it that in the same movie a younger version of Michael Myers appears before this woman in white? Is he the adult Michael's alter ego? What happened to the house in Halloween 6? Why does it not look like the same house from the original movie? Why is it that in Halloween 2, H2O, and Resurrection, he is constantly chasing after Laurie Strode? Does he have some kind of resentment toward her? Is there any reason why Halloween 3, Season of Witch, is part of the main franchise, yet Michael Myers had no involvement whatsoever and never even appeared once? And why is it that Michael Myers cannot function without his mask? What the... I gotta deal with this again next year, don't I?